taking supplies down to the basement right now. It's okay. Yeah, there might be like a little bit of water on the floor in the corner, but it should be fine. No, I assure you, I have plenty of supplies. Yes. Yeah, water and paper towels and toilet paper. Everything should be. Oh no. No. No, nothing. It's just a box. It's just. Hello? Hello? Okay. Oh, yeah, it's okay. We're okay. Oh my goodness. Whoa. I was one fat baby. That's right. I had to go on a diet when I was 6 months old. Went in for a checkup and the doctor's like, whoa, what have you been feeding him? And my mom was like, I just put cereal in his milk so he can sleep through the night. Well, he can't crawl, he can only roll, so we're gonna have to work on that. This sure was a cute toddler, though. Oh, yeah. When I was 3 years old, I went to a wedding for family in Arkansas. And I was really, really short, really, really tan, with black bowl-cut hair, dark, squinty eyes, and I was surrounded by good old-fashioned country white folk. One of my cousins saw me, and his eyes got real wide, and he ran up to me to ask me the most important question he had ever asked anyone up until that point. Are you Chinese? And even at 3 years old, this offended me. Because my response was, I'm not Chinese, I'm Alex. My name is Jeremy Alexander McDonald, but I go by Alex because, well, that's what my mom wanted to call me. No, actually, that was her third choice. Her first choice was Sarah Michelle, which would have made me really popular in middle school. And that was all because she went for a checkup and she didn't want to know the sex of the baby. But the doctor happened to say, well, look how big she's getting. And she thought that meant me. But I'm pretty sure that it meant her. Now, her second choice, if I was a boy, was to name me Michael Alexander after my dad and his dad, which would have been fine if he showed up to the hospital the day I was born. Yeah. It was actually my grandma who was in the delivery room with my mom. It was actually my grandma who was the first person to hold me. I'm chulo. So when the doctor asked, what do you want to name him? And my mom said, Michael, my grandma. In all her furious glory was like, over my dead body. You better pick a new name or else I'm not handing you this baby. And she meant it. Because what you have to understand is that my grandma hated my dad since day one. You see, my dad moved from Texarkana, Arkansas to Dallas, Texas the day after he graduated high school because he was one of 10 kids, number 7. So Granny and Pawpaw didn't have any money to put him in college, so he went to the city to get a job. And he got a job at the Dr. Pepper Bottling Company, and he got himself a garage apartment, which just so happened to be across the street from, survey says, my mom's family home. They met, they fell in love, and they proceeded to have one of the most toxic Dawson's Creek relationships in the history of teenage love stories. I mean, he was the slightly older, white, angry looking, as my grandma would say, Kevin Bacon looking, as my dad would say, redneck jock. And my mom was the Mexican Catholic high school girl with an overprotective mother. I mean, this one writes itself. So after being off and on for 4 years, my mom got pregnant with me, and they decided to get engaged for about a month. Yeah, he missed a payment on a Lamaze class, and for my mom, it was the final straw. She felt like he was immature, unreliable, and most likely unfaithful. And this broke my dad's heart. To this day, he says my mom was the love of his life. But, like many young, dumb, broken-hearted men, he said some stupid shit. Well, if she doesn't want to marry me, then the baby must not be mine. And I don't want anything to do with it. Well, this did not deter my mother, oh no. Because on the day that I was due, the first place she went was his apartment. And she goes up to knock on his door, but who should open the door but my future stepmother, wearing nothing but one of his t-shirts. I'll tell him. So where was I? Oh, Grandma won't hand me to my mom until she picks a new first name. Well, lucky for me, my mom is a quick thinker. And she remembered the last book of the Bible she heard in church. We're Catholic, sometimes. But it was the book of Jeremiah. Now, what about the book of Jeremiah would stick in a young single mom's head? Maybe it was Jeremiah 1:5. I knew you before I formed you in your mother's womb. Before you were born, I set you apart and appointed you as my prophet. Or maybe it was Jeremiah 29:11. For I have plans for you, said the Lord. Plans to prosper you and not to harm you. Plans to give you hope and a future. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. But Jeremiah was still a little too biblical for my mom. So she went with Jeremy. And Jeremy Alexander McDonald was born. But the only people that ever actually call me Jeremy were my grandpa and his wife, Mama Dolores, and her side of the family. And then one of my best friends since I was 6 years old, his parents were from Ghana. And they actually called me Alex for years, but when they found out my first name was Jeremy, they wouldn't call me anything else. And oddly, it was for the same reason that my grandpa called me Jeremy. Kojo would say, Jeremy, that is your name, so that is what we must call you. Okay, they were like second parents to me, so they get a pass. But Jeremy Alexander McDonald doesn't give you a good idea of what kind of brown I am, does it? Most of the time when people meet me, they think that I'm Asian. I mean, my cousin when I was little, my friends growing up, even my fiance when she first met me, they all thought I was some kind of Asian. Which is fine. It's fine, really. It's fine. But according to Ancestry.com, I am Chicano. I am mostly of Native American and Native Mexican heritage, with some white European, some Mediterranean, and a little bit of African thrown in for flavor. But you know what I don't see up there? I don't see any Asian. And weirdly enough, the first time someone was racist towards me was because they thought I was Asian. Now, in Texas, if you have a tan, everyone thinks you're Mexican, or at least half. But I was in St. Louis, Missouri, for a Catholic HART work camp to do community service. Catholic, sometimes. And I went with my uncle, who was the youth group leader, and my other best friend since I was 6 years old, Will. Will is now a Catholic priest. Catholic all the time. But my uncle takes us, and like we're there for a full week when we only get 1 day off. And on that 1 day off, he took us to go float the Mississippi. Now, when you float the Mississippi in St. Louis, Missouri, you will be surrounded by locals, and they will not be afraid to ask questions. Whoa there, boy, you sure you got a lot of kids? Dang, did you pop out all these kids? Oh my goodness. And my uncle was like, no. We're a youth group, a Christian ministry. Oh, Christian, huh? I do love Jesus myself. I've been saved twice. Oh my goodness, so where are y'all coming from? And we're all like, oh, we're from Texas. But Will was born in Spain. So he had to be a little extra, and he was like, I'm European. You're a what? I'm European? European? Well, I'm a peeing too. That's what keeps you warm out here too. But, what about that skinny boy? Man, you don't look like you're from Texas or anywhere around here. Hey, skinny boy! Maybe you wouldn't be so skinny if they fed you something other than rice! And all my friends got offended for me very quickly because they were all white. And they've never been in a conversation where someone's race was brought up. And they're like, are you okay? Are you okay? And I was like, I'm just confused. What kind of rice? White rice, fried rice, brown rice, Mexican rice? This is important because my grandma did make rice for every meal. But how the fuck would he know? That wasn't my first brush with a racist comment. Actually, when I was 10, I had spent the summer down in South Texas in the valley. But anything south of San Antonio, across to Corpus, and across to Laredo, down to the border is called the Valley, or El Valle. And I'd spend my summers down there as a kid. But the summer I turned 10, I've been staying in places in between McAllen and Harlingen, like small towns like Edinburgh and Westlaco. And I made a lot of friends. So I really acclimated to my surroundings. So when I went back to Dallas, and my mom came to pick me up from the airport, I started telling her all about my summer. And I was telling her about my friends, and then she cut me off and said, don't talk like that. Talk like what? And I wasn't trying to talk back, but I really didn't understand. She said, don't talk like a Mexican. I didn't pay for so many years of private Catholic school for you to come back sounding like some kind of wetback. A slur. But I didn't understand. I was like, aren't we of Mexican descent? What does it matter if I sound Mexican? And I didn't understand, and I wouldn't understand for years until I got to know my mom, until I got to know how she grew up, and the community she grew up in, the environment that was around her. Because there are stories from our childhoods that can define our struggles long before we ever understand them. And I have a story like that about my mom. Because I want you all to understand that she's a good person, a great person, probably the best person I know. But these reactions, they come from somewhere. So, when my mom was a little girl, her parents bought her a Raggedy Ann doll. And my grandpa said, now remember, she's very expensive, so you have to take care of her, okay? And my mom was like, okay, I will. And they did everything together. They went everywhere. And they did their little hair, wore their little dresses, had their little tea parties. And my mom was so excited because she was the oldest of 3 kids. But she had 2 younger brothers, Uncle Jedro and Uncle Nene. So having Raggedy Ann was like finally having a little sister. But there was one big difference between Ann and my mom. And that's that Ann was white, porcelain white. And my mom was brown. But why couldn't Ann be brown too? So my mom got a brown crayon and she colored Ann's face. And for about 5 minutes she was so excited. And then she remembered that Ann was expensive. And Ann needed to stay clean. So my grandpa came home that day to find my mom in the bathroom, scrubbing Ann's face in the toilet. And she just looked up at him with tears in her eyes and said, I just wanted her to look like me. Fast forward, years later, it's my freshman year in college, and I get cast in my first main stage play. Yes, I went to college for theater. But this was a big deal. Freshmen don't normally get cast in main stage plays. But they were doing this play called Con mis manos, with my hands. And it was about a Mexican-American family living in South Texas, dealing with family stuff. And they even got us a dialect coach to come teach us how to sound like we were Chicanos from South Texas. And I thought that was fucking hilarious. So when my family came to see the show, I was really excited. So after the show, I ran down to the lobby and I found my mom and I was like, hey, do you remember that one time when I was 10 and she cut me off? thought about it the whole time. Now, soon after that, my mom moved from Dallas, Texas, down to San Antonio, Texas. And she said it was like night and day. Whereas in Dallas, there was always this environment of keeping up with the Joneses, or you had to be something you weren't just to get ahead. But in San Antonio, she was welcomed for who she was. She said she could have an accent, she could speak Spanish, she could be tan, and she could get to the top of her field. And that's exactly what she did. She went from being a catering manager to the director of catering to the director of sales for the largest catering company in the state of Texas. And I was so proud of her. She was happy, she was thriving, and she was proudly tan. Now, at the same time, meanwhile, back in college, I was starting to deal with my own issues with being brown. But I didn't know they were issues at the time because I was getting cast as all the brown people. I played all the Mexicans, the Native Americans, the Asians, the Indians, so it'd be Middle Easterners, even Jewish people. It didn't matter. If they had a tan, I was playing it, and I wanted to, because I wanted to build up my credits on my resume so I could audition for the BFA acting program. See, at Texas State, they have a 2-year acting program that you would audition for at the end of your sophomore year. And then it was like a conservatory training acting program called the Bachelor's of Fine Arts Acting Program. And all the best actors in the department were in there. So I wanted to be in there. They talked about how they would train you to be a professional actor. So when you graduate, they would teach you how to get jobs, how to get money, how to get paid to be an actor. And I needed it. So when the time finally came for them to have a meeting, the head of the acting department hosted it. Now you want to join the BFA acting program, right? You want to join the BFA acting program, right? Well, we want you to join the BFA acting program, but we need to see some things from you, okay? We need to see 2 contrasting monologues. That's 2 contrasting monologues. I said 2 contrasting monologues, and we want a dramatic piece and a comedic piece, and we want these pieces to really speak to you, because we want these pieces to show us who you really are. Who I really am. No one had ever asked me that before. That was a challenge. So I took my time to find pieces that really spoke to me. And I found this dramatic piece about a young man fighting with his dad about cheating on his mom. And then a comedic piece about a catering event manager whose event goes completely wrong and they talk to God. And I worked on it with peers and mentors, teachers, and I rehearsed it, so when I finally went in there to do the audition, I nailed it! Oh, and I felt great! For about 5 minutes, because then I got down to the green room with the rest of the actors, and everyone's panicking and sitting still and sweating and waiting for the cast list to go up. And as I start to kind of join them in this feeling, my friends would stop me and be like, Alex, honey, it's okay. You're a shoo-in. Who else is going to play all the brown people? Thanks. But as I sat there and I thought about it, I was like, I guess I do have a good reputation. I mean, I'm on the dean's list. The teachers know who I am. I just got invited to go to the Shakespeare Study Abroad program this summer. Like, it might not be so bad. But then they walked in with the cast list. And everyone very slowly stood up, kept their arms behind their backs. They're all going to be very calm. We're not going to, just run up on the cast list as soon as they leave. But that's exactly what we did. And I'm really short, so I got to be right in front so I could find my name. But it wasn't there. I wasn't even listed as an alternate. I couldn't re-audition. What did I do wrong? Well, I didn't understand, and I was crushed. But I didn't wallow. I set up meetings with all of my professors to find out what I did or didn't do, or what they saw or didn't see, and they all started to say the same thing over and over, and it started to make me upset until I got to the head of the acting department, who said, well, Alex, it just seems like you don't know how to market yourself professionally. You don't seem to know your type. I know my type. I know I'm going to play the young people as long as I look young, and I know I'm going to play the Mexicans and the Native Americans and the Asians. And, well, then why didn't you show us that in your pieces? Why didn't you give us a good, juicy Mexican piece? Because that's not what you said you wanted to see. You said you wanted to see who I really am. I wasn't raised to speak Spanish. I wasn't raised by maids or gardeners or drug dealers. I went to private school, an arts magnet high school. I was raised by nurses, military men, city officials, restaurant managers, salesmen, artists, musicians. If you wanted to see stereotypes, you should have fucking said so. And I left. I didn't just leave his office. Oh no. I left the whole fucking country. Not in a go back to your country kind of way. No. I went to England. And I landed in the summer of 2006, hearing chants of England, 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 and Brunei, Brunei. Turns out I was there in the midst of the World Cup. I was like, what the hell is a Brunei? Turns out it was Wayne Rooney. And he was the best and the baddest English footballer at the time. And I fell in love with this guy. I fell in love with the game. And his club team was Manchester United. So that became my team, which makes a lot of sense because my other favorite football team is the Dallas Cowboys. And they've had about the same trajectory for the last 30 years. I dug my own hole. Don't feel bad for me. But I wasn't there for the World Cup. No. I was there to study Shakespeare. Remember, I got accepted into the program. So I was the youngest student at 19 years old, surrounded by senior BFA acting majors and grad students. And we were there to study with the RSC, the Royal Shakespeare Company. And the Royal Shakespeare Company isn't just like some British Shakespeare company. It is the Shakespeare Company. And I felt a little out of my depth. I mean, we were all pretty nervous, but I was there as the youngest one, and I wasn't in the BFA program, so I was like, oh my gosh, I really gotta step it up. I really gotta learn what I need to learn. We were there to see 7 different shows, 6 with the RSC, 1 at the Globe, and I had to study them all in detail. And I didn't have Cliff Notes or Spark Notes or Chat GPT for the kids. All I had was the Riverside Shakespeare. And it's a humongous book with very tiny print. And I'm sitting there trying to learn these 7 shows with some fantastic ADHD, if you haven't noticed already. And it was tough, because when the quizzes started to come back, I was getting C's and D's, and I'm normally an AB student, so I was like, what is going on? Between not getting into BFA and starting to, fail at Shakespeare, I didn't understand what was happening. I was really down on myself. But luckily, I had the best teacher I've ever had. Dr. C. Smartest woman I've ever met in my entire life, and she was a genius when it came to Shakespeare. So she came to talk to me, and she was like, so, you're fucking up, huh? Yeah. Well, after you got the answers wrong, did you learn what the right answers were? Well, yeah, we reviewed it, we went over it, I wrote it down. Okay. So then you would say that you've learned what I was trying to teach you. Well, yeah. Well then, I did my job. If I didn't have to give you grades, I wouldn't. As long as you learn what I'm teaching you. But I have to give you grades, it's my job. But you can't be afraid to fail. Because you can learn through failure. And that hit me. That hit me right in my core. I could learn through failure. And that fear washed away. And I was like, okay, yeah, because if I fail, what? That's a rock bottom. I learned something, I'm gonna get better. And I could do that over and over. It didn't matter. And so I started to feel really good. I was like, oh, great. And then we're getting into performance. And I was like, I'll audition to go first every time. I'll volunteer. And all the other students were like, yeah, Alex, you go ahead. You go first. That's fine. Because they were in the BFA acting program. And they teach you in the program to always let someone else go first. That way you can learn from their mistakes. I didn't know that. And I was the wise guy who was overzealous and ready to go first to do a monologue for Jane Lapierre of the RSC. And all I'd ever heard from everybody telling me was that she was as so blunt that it would hurt. That she would chew you up and spit you out. That she was a cold-hearted bitch. And I was like, okay, cool, I'll go first. And I go in there, I was like, hi, my name's Alex McDonald, and this is Dromio of Ephesus from Comedy of Errors. And she cut me off. And I was like, oh God, how did I mess up already? And she pointed at me and she goes, there, right there. Yes. Now that is a real actor. Did you see the way he found his light? I cannot tell you how many actors still don't know how to find their light. It is so embarrassing. You may continue. And I did the piece for her. She gave me some notes. I did it again. It went really well. She was actually really, really nice. She was great. And I began to wonder, I was like, maybe these are all just horror stories people tell you to make you nervous to go in front of her. Because she enjoyed what she was doing. She enjoyed sharing with the next generation how fun it could be to do Shakespeare. And she actually just passed away 2 weeks ago. So here's to her finding her light. But now, here I am, 19 years old, and Jane Lapierre just said I'm a real actor. I'm feeling pretty good. I feel like I could do anything, especially Shakespeare. Apparently it didn't matter what I looked like. I could play anybody in Shakespeare. Well, except Othello, but that's a different story. And I was feeling really good. I was like, this is it. I can do this. And then I went to jail. Oh yeah. But how does a half Mexican Texan end up in jail in England? Well, on paper, one doesn't. Because I went to fill out my ethnicity and my options were English, Irish, Scottish, Welsh, dark African, light African, Asian, Indian, light European, and dark European. So I circled dark European, and technically I wasn't lying. But how did I get here? How did we get here? Well, it was all thanks to Julius Caesar. Oh yeah. We were staying in Stratford-upon-Avon, and we had a flat. And 3 blocks away was the Swan Theater where they were performing Julius Caesar. And I was running late, which is a theme in my life. I blame my mom. But everyone got ahead of me, and then I'm catching up, and I only have 3 blocks to go. So I'm on block 1. On block 2, there's 5 teenage boys, soccer hooligans, if you will. And on block 3, there's 2 young girls, Dr. C's daughters. They came with her on the trip, and they had their own flat. So as I am running on block 1, I see those 5 boys walk through those 2 girls. They didn't stand aside like young gentlemen and let the ladies pass. Oh, no. They walked through them. And the moment they did, I saw the girls' faces just drop. And I was like, that's weird. And so I ran to catch up with the girls. I was like, hey, are y'all okay? And the younger one was like, And I looked at them, and I looked at the boys. I was like, were those boys bothering you? And the older one, who was like 14, was like, actually, yes. And that's all I needed to hear, because I have 3 sisters. So I went into Big Brother mode, and I ran after those boys, and I was like, hey! I didn't hit them. I didn't fight them, okay? How was I going to get on a fight with these boys? What, you think I'm going to fight these boys? Why? Because I'm brown and reactive and always ready for a fight? I mean, I am, but that's because I'm also a redneck. Don't forget. No, I didn't fight these boys. Although, it was similar to the first fight I was in my life. I've only been in 2 fights in my entire life. But the first one was a lot like this. I was jumped by 5 dudes in high school. And they were like sophomores and juniors, and I was a freshman. They're like, oh, we're just breaking on a freshman. Whatever. They were the pranksters in high school. They would break these stink bombs in the middle of the hallway. They'd act up in class. And after school, they had their favorite game of playing catch. The issue is we went to an arts magnet high school that had no sports, so nobody could catch. And they used that to their advantage. So as they would pass the ball, someone positioned themselves right next to somebody else, and they just stand out of the way while the ball hit them. And then they tried to do that to my girlfriend. Thing was, I went to a middle school that had sports, so I could catch the ball. So I did. I took it, I looked at them, and then I threw it in the street. And they were really mad about that, because our high school was in the middle of downtown Dallas, so that ball wasn't coming back. And so for the next week, every day after school, as I would leave to walk to my train, all I would hear is, "Bitch! Queer!" And I'd turn around and look, and they'd be looking up, pointing at planes, or just whistling. And I was like, whatever. But then one day at lunch, I was at lunch in the courtyard with my friends, because we had a perfectly square high school with a perfectly square courtyard right in the middle. And on one end of the courtyard, there was a soda machine. And I told my friends, I was like, I'm just going to go grab a soda. And right before you get to the soda machine, there was this metal awning. And under the metal awning was this silver metal box. And it had like a little freezer door on the front. I didn't know what it was. I just knew it looked expensive. In fact, it had a sign on it that says, "Expensive, don't touch." So I wasn't. I was just going to go get a soda. But suddenly, these guys tackle me all at once. All I see is one person's t-shirt in front of my eyes as they all pick me up and shove me into this small silver box. And they're trying to get me all the way in, but my legs are hanging out and I won't let them get me all the way in. So they shut the door on my legs and it cuts my shins. And I'm pushing on the other side of the door. And the other side of the door is sharp. And I was like, why is this sharp? And then I can hear them on the other side arguing with other students. They're saying, "Hey, stop, what are you doing?" And then I'm pushing on this side and they're pushing on the other. And suddenly I hear, "Teacher's coming." And all the pressure on the door went away. I flew open. And as I stood up, I saw my shins bleeding and I felt my blood boil all the way up to my face until I just saw red. And then I saw that guy whose shirt matched what wrapped my face. And he was about 4 times my size this way, but I didn't care. I ran right up to him and I punched him in the face 3 times. And then he swung on me and I backed up and I looked. And I'd given him an instant shiner. He had a black eye. And I was like, oh my God, what have I done? But all that came out of my mouth was, "What the fuck was that for?" And he swung on me and I swung on him and he shoved me down. And I go and I kick him and he goes flying back, or well, inching back. And as he swung at me one more time, I was ready for it, but someone grabbed me by the collar and dragged me to the principal's office. Now, I'd never been to the principal's office before, but I knew it wasn't good. I'm surrounded by 3 English teachers and my principal. And my principal was this really cool guy. He was really charming, very tall, very handsome, very Obama-like, if you will. And they're all asking me, he's like, "Who are these people you were fighting? Why are you fighting with them? Who are these people?" And I was like, whoa. I don't know their names. "Oh, we don't believe you. You're just protecting them." And I was like, no. I understand. Snitches get stitches. But I honestly do not know these dudes' names. And they're like, "You have to know something." And I was like, okay, well, there's this one guy. I'm not going to get in trouble for saying this, am I? And they're like, no. I was like, okay, well, he has this racist Indian nickname. They call him like Haji from Johnny Quest. And all the teachers very quickly, "Oh, yeah, we know Haji. And then the principal got down to my level. And he was like, "Tell me what happened." And I told him the whole story, just like I told you. And he looked me very seriously in the face and said, "You did the right thing. If you hadn't stood up for yourself, they would have just kept harassing you. Now go back to class." And I was like, "That's it?" He's like, "That's it." And I was like, "I can go?" He's like, "Go!" And I was like, "Okay." And I got to go back to class. Those other guys, they got suspended for 2 weeks out of school, which is like the harshest sentencing you can get without getting expelled. But the reason why was because of that silver metal box. It turns out this silver metal box was called a kiln. Oh, some of you know what that is? Well, if you don't know, a kiln is an oven for pottery. it gets up to 1,500 to 2,500 degrees. So had the door actually shut fully, I would have been literally cooked. But back to the British boys. Hey! And they all turned around to look at me with wide eyes. I'm like, oi, mate, what's up? And I was like, are you bothering those girls? Oh, no, mate, we wouldn't do that, no. I was like, all right then, go on. And before they left, they turned around and had a question for me. Oi, mate, where are you from? Texas. And they ran. And I remember this, right? People are afraid of Americans, and Texans are extroverts. So I ran to the theater, and I made it just in time, and I grabbed my seat, and I looked back, and I was like, Dr. C, there's this guy bothering your daughters, but I ran him off, and she got up, and she left. She was worried. And I guess I understand, that's fine. So I sat there, and I watched Julius Caesar for the first half, and then finally intermission came. And as I got up to go get some snacks, I got grabbed by the collar and dragged to the lobby, and I was like, what's going on? It was Dr. C. I was like, what's up? And she was like, Alex, would you be okay missing the second half of Julius Caesar? Oh, thank God. I mean, yes, why? Well, I would really like for you to come with me to the police office and file a report. Those boys that walked through my daughters, well, it turns out when they walked through them, they groped them. Absolutely. So that's how I ended up at the jail, filling out my ethnicity and giving them a statement. And then I looked up and they tracked my statement on the CCTV system. And it was this giant wall of like hundreds of tiny TVs that hooked up to all the cameras all over the town. So I saw where I confronted them, and then when I went to the theater and they went the other way, and all I could think when I looked at those TVs was, Big Brother. After that, Dr. C took everybody out to dinner, and I actually had to go to her flat to review my research project with my research partner, Mario. And we were doing a research project on the history of set design for A Midsummer Night's Dream. And we focused on the 1970 Peter Brook production of A Midsummer Night's Dream. It's a very famous production that had an all-white set with some splashes of color, and the actors stayed on stage the entire time. So if you ever see any factors like that, it's from that. But as we sat there, Dr. C started to ask us about the next year. And Mario talked about, all the shows he was excited to be in or audition for. And then Dr. C turned to me and was like, well, Alex, you're about to start BFA acting, right? No. No? Why? I proceeded to tell her the story of the difference of opinion and show us who you really are and what that meant to me and what that meant to them. And she thought about it for a little bit. And she said, okay, well, we'll see about that. And as we got up to leave, Dr. C stopped me and was like, wait, I have something for you. And she handed me a card, like it was a piece of paper that was folded up into a card and it had been colored in colored pencil. She said, Olivia made this for me, her youngest daughter. She says you're her hero. And the world got a little bigger in that moment. It was like anything I was talking about BFA didn't matter anymore. There's just more important things, And so as we got back to the States, 3 things happened. Number 1, every subsequent BFA acting audition, make sure to let the auditionees know, we want to see you audition as if you were auditioning professionally, per your type. Number 2, I got a phone call from a friend who had just graduated. And he was producing Con Mis Manos, With My Hands, in Austin, the big city just north of my college. And he wanted me to audition for the lead role. And I was like, this is great. This is the city, professional production, paid. And I was like, here we go. Who needs BFA? And as I was getting ready to go, I got one more phone call. And the third thing was the head of the acting department. Well, Alex, we heard about what a great job you did up there in Stratford, and we want to go ahead and offer you a spot in the BFA acting program without re-auditioning. You goddamn right you do. And I was excited, but I had a choice to make. I was like, okay, so I can either go to Austin and audition for the show, or I could join the BFA acting program. But I couldn't do both, because if I accepted the BFA acting program, I essentially belonged to them for the next 2 years. I couldn't do anything without their permission, and they wanted us to do all their shows. So I thought about it, and I realized, well, Dr. C went to bat for me. She had to. She denied it, but she had to. And she was the whole reason I went to that college in the first place. I mean, she saw me in high school when I went to theater camp, and she asked me to go there for that program, back when she was the head of acting. But between the time that I got there, she got promoted to graduate studies in the Shakespeare Study Abroad program. But I thought about it, and I was like, the degree I always wanted, the training that I wanted, I was like, okay, it's for me and for Dr. C. And I accepted. And I worked really hard to be the best at being all the brown people for the next 2 years. And my friends would sometimes ask me, I was like, does that bother you? Just like, do you feel pigeonholed? And I was like, no, not anymore. Because if this is how I'm gonna make money, if this is how I'm gonna go out and get paid to be an actor, then I wanna be the best at it. And by the time I graduated, I was. Because I was the only male actor chosen to represent our theater at the Unified Professional Theater Auditions, or UPTAs. And it's where actors would go to audition for work after college, or for the summer, whatever the case may be. But before I could go, the head of the acting department wanted one more thing from me. A stage name. Why do I need a stage name? Well, Alex, you are what we would call ethnically My phone. I got a notification. It's a voicemail.
Hey, you need to call your grandmother. Your mom was taken to the hospital. They think she had a heart attack. Brandy?
Yes.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay.
Okay, where are you? This is my wife for anybody that's
We
listening.
just left a town hall meeting in Black Mountain
Okay,
with Eli and our neighbor.
okay.
Okay, so the information that we got was that no resources coming to Black Mountain. FEMA is not coming. The water system is completely devastated. If you can leave, you're encouraged to leave. I-26 southbound is open. Yet anything here is just, putting more on the resources, which there are none, and there's no medical trailer or medical services at all in Black Mountain. Okay.
Where are you guys headed? Is the plan still the same? Or
We're walking back to the house. I've been trying to communicate with your brother and about going to their house, but I wanted to wait for you, and it doesn't sound like you're coming home anytime soon.
No, listen, if you can get to the radio station, just come here. Just bring the dogs.
Okay.
Bring the dogs, bring Eli, and just come to the radio station. They're cutting a path down our driveway right now. By the time you get here, hopefully that path will be cut. If not, it'll be removed shortly after that. But just get to the radio station if you can.
Okay.
All right. It's so good to hear your voice.
Yeah, it's so good to hear your voice too.
Okay, we'll see you soon. Just we've got cell service here. We've got internet service, so we'll see you when you get here.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. I love you.
Can you just take over for a second? I got it.
Still no service. Where was I? Oh yeah. A stage name. Why do I need a stage name? Well, Alex, you are what we would call ethnically ambiguous. Now, if you don't know what ethnically ambiguous is, it means when someone looks at you, they don't know how to hate you properly. Or, in terms of film, it means they can cast one person of color who looks biracial, instead of having to cast multiple people of color, because they've already covered the demographic with that person who represents multiple. I just feel like you really need to, I don't know, Mexican it up a little bit. Really spell it out for the people what kind of brown you are. Mexican it up a little bit. He actually said that. Well, I Mexicaned it up a lot. Alex became Alejandro. I added my mom's last name onto my last name because multiple last names is really Mexican, right? And Alejandro McDonald Villarreal was born. And even though it felt demeaning at first, it worked. When I went to UPTAS, I got a job with an equity theater company in California, the job that everybody wanted. And I got it. And I got it from my slate alone. Hello, my name is Alejandro McDonald Villarreal. Number 202. And this is Cloud Tectonics by Jose Rivera and Clotton from Cymbeline. A young Mexican man who knows his type and he can do Shakespeare without an accent. I mean, what more could you want? I began to feel like being Hispanic had its advantages. I was able to get special Hispanic scholarships. I was able to get cast in theater companies across the country. Fuck! My ex-wife was able to use my last name to get a diversity hire, and she is white. But day to day, I feel like my legal name has its own advantages. I mean, I've been pulled over many times. I've never been arrested, and I've only gotten one speeding ticket when I was 18, and I got it washed away because I took defensive driving, and I got it half off at Blockbuster because I worked there. Yes, I'm that old, and yes, that job was great. But I've had a few memorable experiences. I mean, I was driving in Asheville on my way to work, and I got pulled over one day, and he comes to look at me while I'm wearing a suit, and his first response when he sees me is this your vehicle? I've been pulled over and held on the side of the road in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of the night. And I was held there because I had to wait for a drug dog to come sniff my car because I requested the sheriff to just let me go. Like, I was like, he wanted to search the car, and I was like, I really want to go home. It's late. And apparently that was the wrong answer. So when the second sheriff showed up with the drug dog, they're like, why didn't you just let him search your car? And I was like, I did, after he said he was going to bring a drug dog, but it didn't matter. And then, in my college town, I was back while I was on tour for children's theater. And I got pulled over and held on the side of the highway so they could interview my tour partner to see if I kidnapped her. I was wearing a t-shirt with the sun with a smiley face, for God's sake. But most of the time, I just get pulled over. I hand them my ID. They read my name that says Jeremy Alexander McDonald. They look at me, they look at my card, they look very confused, and they let me go. Because I am treated differently from the moment that they pull me over to the moment they read my ID. And I began to think, maybe my mom gave me my dad's family name to protect me from these situations. Because growing up, you would hear horror stories about you couldn't get certain jobs or you wouldn't be accepted into certain colleges if you looked too ethnic on paper. And finally, I just asked her flat out. I was like, Mom, did you give me my dad's family name as like a security blanket or so I didn't have to deal with stuff that you had to deal with growing up? And she was like, no, I was 18. You think I was thinking about that? I gave you your dad's family name so you knew where you came from. Because if he was going to go around saying he wasn't your dad, I wanted to prove it to the one person who mattered. You. Now, I love both my parents. My dad came around soon after I was born. Actually, I found out recently, since he saw this play, that he did show up to the hospital the day I was born. In the middle of the night, after everybody else had left. And I asked my mom about it. I was like, is this true? And she thought about it. She's like, oh, yeah. He apparently brought her a brown paper bag with an orange in it. I guess after you give birth, you're prone to, I don't know, scurvy? But growing up, it was always my great-grandmother, Mamo Chala. You're probably wondering when this was going to happen. But she would always tell me the story that she was the one who convinced my dad that he was my dad. And she would say it all the time. She'd be like, "Ay, mijo chulo! I was the one who convinced Miguel he was your papa because I was babysitting you the day after you were born." It was not the day after I was born. And I made him come over. I had to call him from the telephone. I said, "Miguel, you come here right now. And you come see your son." And he came because he listens to me. And he came over and I picked you up like a, como se dice, Himba in the Lion King. Simba. Simba. I said, mira, Miguel, look. This is your son. He's gringo, yes. But he has your face, look. And if you ever saw a picture of me from the day I was born, you would know I was a really white baby compared to the rest of my family. Now, even though my dad was a bit immature when he was young, well, he's still immature. But I feel like he matured more with every kid that he had. And I'm the oldest of 5 that we know of. You laugh, but Papa was a Rolling Stone, okay? Just like Paw, his dad. You see, my Papa. I told you the story how my dad was one of 10 kids, right? Okay, number 7, right? Well, the very last McDonald family reunion before Paw passed away, 3 things happened. Number 1, he wore that sombrero so I'd feel more comfortable around him. He had a good sense of humor. Number 2, all 10 kids showed up with all their kids, so hundreds of cousins. And then number 3 more kids showed up. Oh yeah, because Paw apparently had a whole other family that nobody ever knew about. Because he went off to World War II, and when he came back, he was in New Jersey, and he was in a diner, and he fell in love with his waitress, who turned out to be my granny. And then they went on to have 10 kids, and I learned all of this from Ancestry.com. Oh yeah, because I found their wedding certificate, which proved they weren't married until after my dad was born. And I told my dad, because he had Ancestry.com too, and I was like, "Hey, did you see that? Did you see that Granny and Papa never even got married until he was able to get a divorce from his first wife who lived 1 county away. And I was like losing my mind. I was like, this is what could happen before social media and cell phones? But my dad took away a different lesson from that story, and he was just like, oh yeah, just rub it in. My parents weren't married when I was born, so I'm a bastard. I get it, I'm a bastard. And I was just like, who the fuck are you telling? But now I'm the oldest of 5 kids from 3 different moms. So you got my mom, who's your Dallas City Chicana, and then you have my first stepmom, who's your South Texas El Valle Chicana, and then my second stepmom, who is Mexican from Mexico. Now remember, my dad's the white one. He just likes brown women, and he just kept getting more and more authentic. But because of this, me and all of my siblings are ethnically ambiguous. Thank you very much. In fact, me and my stepsister Erica actually look the most alike. And we even have the same middle name, Alexander, Alejandra. And we both went by Alex as kids. And my dad thought that was hilarious. He'd tell everybody all the time, I'm just like George Foreman. He names all his kids George. I name all my kids Alex. Isn't that right? And then my sister started going by Erica. Then my baby brother, Mikey, he's the only dual citizen of us, but he's also the whitest. He's what you would call a güero. Güero is like Mexican white boy. I mean, he was so white. When he was a baby, we'd be in the grocery store, and strangers would come up to my dad, because apparently in the grocery store, strangers can say whatever you want. And they'd be like, oh, that's such a beautiful baby. And they'd look at my stepmom and go, oh, is this your maid? And we'd have to hold my dad back, because he'd be ready to fight right there in the grocery store. And I mean, I get it. I've almost gotten into a fight over my little brother, too. But that was with my Uncle Jejo. You remember my Uncle Jejo was like my youth group leader. Well, he was also like my confirmation sponsor, and he was like a big brother and a father figure. But it all started because I took my little brother on a road trip. And we went to Texarkana, Arkansas to see Granny and Pawpaw. But we stopped in Dallas to stay the night, because it was a long drive. And we stayed with Grandpa Joe. Now, my little brother was small enough that he didn't fully understand that we had different grandparents. So when he met my grandpa, he was just like, hi, Grandpa, I love you, and gave him a big hug. But my grandpa isn't the type of person to say I love you, so he was like, thank you. And I guess word got back to the rest of the family. So after the trip, I met up with my mom and my Uncle Jejo and my Uncle Nene, because we were at a Villarreal Gomez family reunion in Galveston. We're out with all our cousins, having a good time, drinking. And suddenly, I hear my Uncle Jejo in the next room say, I just don't understand why he can take Michael's son to my dad's house. I mean, he's not even blood. And I lost my shit. And I stormed into that room and I was like, so what if he isn't blood? He's my blood, and even if he wasn't, he'd still be my brother. Because I don't care about halves and steps like you do. Because you are I said some choice words I'm not going to repeat. But needless to say, we didn't talk for like 6 months to a year. And Jejo, he was always kind of like that. Like, growing up. He had issues with his stepmom and his stepbrothers, my other uncles. Like, he always felt like he was treated differently than everybody else. I know I was treated differently. I was a grandchild. But he considered me a sibling because we're only 15 years apart. But as time went on, I would chalk up his behavior to middle child syndrome. And he was still stuck on that. He'd always say it. He was treated differently than everybody else. But it turns out, he may have been right, which is very difficult to say. But the year before my Grandpa Joe passed away, he took Uncle Jejo to a Texas Rangers baseball game. Because apparently my grandpa was the type of man that likes to give bad news at fun events. Well, Jejo, it's just that, I might not be your real dad. And if I'm not your real dad, your real dad's already dead. And what's even crazier than that is I actually knew that story from the other side, from my grandma. Because she was with me when I got my first car, and I had to drive it from the valley back to Dallas, and she was my passenger. And that's a 12-hour drive, so we had a lot of time to talk. So I got to hear a lot of stories. I heard the story about her first fiance. You see, my grandma was a nurse in the Army, and my grandpa and this other guy were all in the Army together. And they ship out, and her first fiance doesn't come back. So she waited for a while, but eventually she moved on. And she fell in love with my grandpa, they got married, they had my mom, and she says she was already pregnant with Uncle Jejo when he showed back up on her doorstep and said, I still love you. She said, I only kissed him, I didn't cheat on your grandpa. And I was like, I'm not judge, I wasn't there, but whatever. But obviously, Grandpa must have thought something for a long time. But he followed it up with this. But Jejo, I want you to know, you are my son, and I love you. That may have been the only time my grandpa said out loud that he loved somebody. And I can honestly say I saw a difference in my uncle after that. He treated his stepmom and his stepbrothers differently. He started acting like the big brother I always knew he could be. He was becoming the new patriarch of the family, and I loved it. I respect that, because I love being a big brother. I mean, my siblings are some of the greatest people on this planet. These are my sisters. So this is Danny. Danny, oh, she's now in a Chicana punk rock band. She can play every instrument and sing in Spanish. Not only that, she was doing that while she was putting herself through college, being a single mom, and saved up enough money to buy her own house. And she is the strongest woman I know. My sister Erica, she just got married, and now she's traveling the world with her new husband. She's also a paralegal, and she's very happy, and I'm very happy for her. Baby B, Bianca, the most naturally talented person I've ever met in my life. And she must have learned it through osmosis, because I had all this training. I would teach Danny at theater camps that I was directing, and Bianca never got that. So the first time she was on stage, it shocked us all when she stole the show. And then she could sing. I was like, oh my God. Her rendition of Como la Flor by Selena is one of the most haunting things I've ever heard. And this is my baby stepsister, Bella. And even though my mom and her dad aren't married anymore, she still spends more time with my mom than she does with her dad, because she's cool, and so is my mom. And then my baby brother, Mikey, he's a nuclear engineer, because he fell in love with a presentation in high school, and he chased that dream. All of my siblings followed their passions, just like I did when I went off to California to do the theater gig. But I'll be honest with you, what I missed the most when I was there was them. So when my contract was up, I moved back to Texas. And for the first time in my life, I lived with my dad and all of my siblings. It was the first time we all lived in the same house. Because my dad had just gotten this big house in the middle of nowhere in Victoria, Texas. Had a whole bunch of land. And so we all kind of pitched in together to get stuff for the summer. Erica had just graduated high school. The other kids were teenagers. We had jobs. So we put our money together and we bought a trampoline for the backyard. I taught them how to do backflips. It was a lot of fun. But in Texas, it's also very hot. So we also bought rock bands to play every instrument and sing karaoke inside the house with AC. And that summer, honestly, was one of the best summers of my life. And as I looked around at all my siblings and realized what was happening, I called a sibling meeting. It was at night, and so we all went out onto the trampoline to sit in a circle. Under the stars at night are big and bright, deep in the heart of Texas. Sorry, not sorry, it's genetic and built in. It will happen again. But we all sat in a circle and we just told stories. And we talked about what it was like growing up with different parents and custody battles and the fights between our parents and all of us in the background of all that. And I told them something that was really important to me for them to understand. And it's that one day, all of our parents are going to be dead. And it's just going to be the 5 of us. And we will still be brothers and sisters. No halves, no steps, brothers and sisters, and we will still have each other's backs. And they all agreed. They loved it. My youngest siblings, Mikey and baby B, they wanted to do a sibling meeting every night for the next week after that. And I already knew that they had my back. I mean, they proved it the summer before, on the day I graduated college. Because that was the day I got into my second fight. Yeah. So I graduated Texas State University in San Marcos, Texas. My mom was throwing me a graduation party in San Antonio, 45 minutes south of there. So my dad had a hotel off of Highway 410 for him, my stepmom, and all the kids. And so I had to show him how to get from the Crown Plaza Hotel to my mom's place for the graduation party. And as I'm waiting in the parking lot for all the kids to finally get ready and get in the car, I suddenly hear someone screaming. And I mean screaming bloody murder. And I'm looking around thinking it's one of the kids messing around. And I realize it's not. So I'm trying to figure out where the screaming is coming from. And then I realize across 8 lanes of traffic on the other side of the highway, on a grassy knoll in front of the Chase Bank, there was a man in a wife beater taking off his belt and beating his wife. Like, hitting her with it, choking her with it. And I was like, this can't be real. This is far too violent. This is a television show. They're filming something, obviously, right? And I realized very quickly that it wasn't. Because I noticed the uniform that she was wearing matched the uniform of this other man across the parking lot from them, and he was on the phone. And I was just like, oh my God. And my dad saw me. He's like, what's wrong? And I pointed out what was happening, and he puffed up real big because he's built like a brick shit house. And then he deflated because he saw the cops. And he turns back to me. He's like, no, don't worry about it. The cops are coming. Let's go to your party. Don't worry about it. And I was like, okay, let's go. So we all pile into the cars to get ready to hit the highway and go to my mom's. And as we're pulling out, I'm behind my dad in his truck. And suddenly, right before we leave the parking lot, he stops, parks, and gets out of the truck. And I'm like, what are you doing? And he looks me dead in the eye, and then he looks back out on the highway. And I turn, and there's that man running across 8 lanes of traffic. How he didn't get hit by a car, I'll never know. But he ended up right in our parking lot. And I knew it was fucking on. So I go to run to back up my dad, I'm thinking, and he's walking towards the man, and then he suddenly stops. But I'm still running. I'm like, where the fuck do you think you're going? And the guy who saw me coming, his eyes get really wide, he's really shocked, because this very tiny man is running up to hit him. And he's like, what is happening? And before I got there, my dad had stopped, and he tried to tell me something. But I didn't hear it because I was yelling, where the fuck do you think you're going? Turns out he was trying to tell me that the guy had told him he had a gun. Oh. Now, I'll be honest with you, he did not have a gun. Remember I told you he had the belt off? Well, when he had the belt off and he was using it, his pants fell down below his ankles. So I saw there was no gun. But as I'm running up to him, I realized 3 things very quickly. Number 1, he was much taller than me. Number 2, he still had that belt wrapped around his hand. And number 3, his eyes were so bloodshot, I realized, oh, he's on a lot of drugs. But I was already here, and so I figured, fuck it, might as well follow through. And I swung and hit him in the face, and the shock on his face as he spun around like a drunken ballerina and came back with that belt and whipped me in the back of the head. And as it hit me, I went down for a moment, and before I could swing again, all I see is my dad's fist fly in front of my face and knock that dude the fuck out! And my dad jumped on him and put him in a headlock. The guy bit my dad's arm, and my dad yelled, "Alex, get the belt!" So I jumped on his underarm and I ripped the belt out of his hand. And then we hold him down and we shove his face in the gravel until the cops get to our side of the highway. Now, when the cops got there, I got the fuck out because I'm still brown. As I turned around, I noticed all 4 of my siblings holding whatever they could get their hands on. Keys, an umbrella, an ice scraper, and they were ready to jump in if they needed to. I mean, my little brother was right there, 10 years old, being like, "Tag me in, big bro, I got this. I got this, I'll kick them. Whatever you need." I was like, that is having my back. Yeah, we all were pretty happy about it. We're like, "That's pretty cool. That was awesome." But then my dad kind of pulled me aside before we left, and he said something I won't forget. He said, "Now, son, that was really exciting. I know. You probably feel really good right now, but I was really scared. That guy told me that he had a gun, and then you were running after him, and all I could think of was that it was my fault. Because I taught you how to fight, since your mom said those boys put you in that weird civil note box." But I know how I am. I know I've been looking for fights my whole life, but you don't need to be like me. You're better than me. One day, I hope I can grow up to be like you. Now let's go to your mom's. Come on, let's get out of here. And we got to go to the party with this victory story. And my dad is now seeing my mom's family for like the first time in 20 years. Who are all walking in. And they weren't going to believe me and my dad. But the fact that we all told the same story, they were like, "Wow." It was a great time. Up until I saw my parents flirt for the first time in my life. Yeah, when your parents, if you grow up and they're not together, and then you see them together in any capacity, it just made me want to vomit. And my dad is not allowed to date my mom. I know my dad. No. But it was cool because I got to show my mom's side of the family, where I'm an only child, what I was like with my dad's side of the family, where I'm the oldest of 5. Because some of my best memories were with my siblings. Also some of my most heartbreaking ones. Now, growing up, Danny was my first sibling. You can tell she's the one in the Chicana punk rock band now. But Danny was born when I was 6 years old. And we're actually born in the same hospital in Dallas, Texas. And she lived there until she was 2. And then they moved down to the Valley because my first stepmom was from the Valley. And that's why I was spending every summer down there after that. And that summer that I turned 10, remember when my mom was like, "Don't talk like that"? That summer was actually the last time that I saw Danny or my dad for 4 years. Turns out he was going through a really ugly divorce with my first stepmom. And even though I was really upset about how he dropped off the face of the planet, and it would take time to kind of patch up that relationship, it was probably for the best. Because my first stepmom was the bane of my existence. I mean, you know how they describe stepmoms in the old Disney movies? Yeah, it was kind of like that. I'll give you an example. When I was in 2nd grade, I would stay with my dad. This is when he was still living in Dallas. I'd be there half the week, so they'd have to take me to school. One morning, my stepmom was supposed to take me to school. So I was getting ready and put on my little uniform, and I was like, okay, we gotta go. I can't be late to Spanish class. I was already late to Spanish class once this week. And then she cut me off. And she started laughing in my face. She's like, "You're worried about being late to Spanish class? You can't even speak Spanish. Your mom can't even speak Spanish. She says her last name is Villarreal. It's a Villarreal. Can you say that? Can you say Villarreal? Can you roll your tongue? No? Why can't you roll your tongue? That's embarrassing. You're Mexican, aren't you? Why can't you roll your tongue? Oh, look, you made your sister cry. Oh, but look, she can roll her tongue. Every time she cries, she rolls her tongue. She's just a baby. What's wrong with you? I'm not taking you to school until you learn how to roll your tongue. Now roll your tongue. roll your tongue! So if I have any trauma about learning to speak Spanish, I think I know where it comes from. And I'll tell you a secret. I still can't properly roll my tongue. When I say Villarreal, that's actually the back of my tongue with my soft palate. You're supposed to roll your tongue with the front of your tongue on the top of your front teeth. Like, and I do, oh, I hear it. Go ahead, get it out, try it out. How do you do it? Do you do it with the front? Do you do it with the back? Okay, and we're done. Well, my dad came back into my life at my 8th grade graduation, and he talked to me about spending the summer with him again. But at this point, he now lives in Mexico, because my new stepmom is a Mexican citizen, so is my new stepsister. And I'm just now learning I have a new stepmom and a new stepsister, and a baby brother. I was really excited. But I also had never met baby B, because my first stepmom was pregnant with her that summer, the last time I saw them. So we talk it out, and I agreed to spend the summer with him. So I fly down from Dallas, down to the valley, and he comes to pick me up from the airport with my sister Danny, who's the only sibling I know at this point, and baby B. And this is the first time we meet in the airport. She was really nervous to meet me at first, but the moment I said, hey, she gave me the biggest hug and looked up at me and goes, you want to see my favorite game? Of course I do. Well, it turns out her favorite game had to do with a new family vehicle. My dad had a minivan, because now he has 5 kids. And the back seat was a bench seat. And she would jump up on the bench seat and be like, okay, we're about to cross the bridge. You ready? And the reason why is, when you cross the bridge from Texas into Mexico, the first half goes like this, the American side. And the second half goes like this, the Mexican side. And so she's in the back of the van going, woo! Woo! And that's why every kid from Texas can say this isn't our first rodeo. But the moment I got to the other side of the bridge, it was like culture shock. Because they lived in Reynosa. And Reynosa is not a tourist town. It's a border town. And there is a difference. Because the highway turned into like one-lane dirt highway that was covered in car accidents and pollution in tent cities. Like, the car accidents are because the engineers there built all their highways in straight lines, thinking, the fastest way between 2 points is a straight line. But the reason why our highways here have curves in them is so we don't fall asleep. They don't have that. So there's all these graphic car accidents. It's really weird to see. And after that, you have all the pollution that these people are using to build their tent cities while they wait for a better life. They're waiting on one side of the Rio Grande River, and it's like you start to notice these things, and then we pull into the neighborhood, and we pull up to the house, and it's a cement block, like a child's drawing. 2 square windows, a rectangle door, and across the street, there was a dilapidated park with a stray, skinny horse. And I would learn very quickly that my only amenities that summer were a window AC unit, MTV in Spanish, and a Nintendo 64. But I'll be honest with you, none of that mattered the moment I walked through that door. Because the moment I walked through that door, I met my family. My new stepmom was like night and day for my first stepmom. She's an angel on earth. Nora's one of the best people I know. Erica was so excited to meet me. She didn't speak very good English, and I didn't speak very good Spanish. I still don't. Funny story, now she doesn't either. But we would help each other out. And she was very welcoming. And then finally, my baby brother, the happiest baby in the world. The moment he saw me, he was just smiling. I go to pick him up and be like, hey, buddy. And I go to close the front door after coming in, and I just shut it with my shoulder, and I forget the other side is this big metal steel screen door. So when I shut it, it makes a big clang sound, and I get scared a little bit, and he starts laughing at me. And I was like, oh, you think that's funny, huh? So I rear up, and I run into the door and go, ow! Pretended like it hurt, and he thought that was hilarious. And I put him down, and immediately he was like, again? Okay. And I ended up running into that door 30 more times. And that was our first game. I very quickly started to teach him how to play the Nintendo, because I was like, I need to save myself the pain, man. And he actually got really good at video games. I mean, he got so good, I could hand him the controller at the final boss, and he'd beat him, just from watching the same patterns I was doing. And I was like, that's weird. And then he'd get a little bit older, and he would get frustrated because he couldn't beat the games anymore because he couldn't read yet. Because back then, the video games, it wasn't audible, it was all text on the screen. And one day I had to tell him, I was like, little buddy, it's okay. You're going to end up going to kindergarten next year, they're going to teach you how to read, and you're going to come back and you're going to beat all those games, okay? And he took that very seriously. And he looked up at me and it was like he was saying, bet. Because that is exactly what he did. I don't even know if they were trying to teach them to read in kindergarten, but he came back and he knew how. And he beat all those games he couldn't beat before, and he got really good at it, and now, you know, nuclear engineer. But that first summer, I'm 13, turning 14, coming from a situation where I've been an only child for the most of my life, and suddenly I'm the oldest of 5. And I had one big lesson I had to learn very quickly. And that was to share. And it was the biggest pain in my ass. Anytime I went to the store and bought candy, and my dad would be like, Mama, you got enough candy to share with everybody? Yeah. Anytime I got a new toy, wanted to play video games, he'd be like, Mama, you got enough controllers for everybody to play with you? Yes. Anytime I wanted to go to the movies, you got enough money to take all your siblings with you? I'm like, oh my God! But as I got older, since I had set that example, they did the same thing. They would buy enough candy for everybody to share. Whenever they got a new toy or a video game, they wanted everyone to play with them. Whenever we went to the movies, we would split the cost. Someone would get the tickets, the popcorn, the soda, the candy. And then we'd start watching out for each other. Anytime we got in trouble, we'd sneak each other snacks and things. Anytime we wanted to smoke weed, we'd watch out for each other. You know, normal sibling things. So time goes on. I start spending more summers there. I get a little bit older. My hair gets a little bit longer. I start to act like more of a teenager. I get into fights with my mom because I want to go to parties, and she's like, you can't go to any parties. You can't even drive. I'll be like, shut up, Mom! I get into fights with my dad, mostly about my long hair. We'd be sitting at the breakfast table, and he would make a big show about getting up and going over to the phone on the wall, calling the barbershop, and making me an appointment. Yeah, it's for Alex McDonald. That's right. Okay. And as soon as he hung up, all my siblings would be like whispering in my ears, like, go hit redial, go hit redial. And so I'd get up and go to the phone, hit redial, and be like, yeah, cancel that appointment for Alex McDonald. Yeah, and all my siblings would be like, ooh. And I don't know if this happens to every eldest sibling, but maybe it does. But I began to feel more responsibility to the younger ones. And it was like I was a bridge between our parents and them. I was almost like a third parent sometimes. And that all came to a head when I turned 16 and I started my junior year in high school. Because my dad ended up getting temporary custody of my sisters, Danny and baby B. Because their mom got arrested for drinking and driving with them in the car. My dad wanted to make that custody permanent. So he asked me to move in with him. Now, my dad had asked me to move in many times as I grew up. And I'd always be like, no, I can't. I got my mom. I got to take care of my mom. I got, school. And then it became, the arts magnet in high school. And then it was my girlfriend, whatever the case may be. But at this point, it was about my sisters getting away from their mom. And I knew their mom. And I wanted to protect them from their mom. So I really considered it. And my dad pitched this idea. Well, why don't you just come up for the weekend? It's Labor Day weekend. Just come on up and just don't go back. And I was like, that's a good idea. And so that's what I was going to do. And I'm like finishing up that week of school, and I'm having to do a monologue for all the younger students. And the teacher afterwards was like, oh, this is great. So next week, can you do this? And for whatever reason, I just broke down crying. And she was like, oh my God, what happened? Are you okay? She thought like there was some trauma at home or something. And I was like, no, it's like, I gotta go, I don't know if I'm gonna be here next week. I gotta go take care of my sisters. There's this whole thing. I told her the whole story. And she was like, oh my gosh, that's awful. I'm sorry, but I understand. You gotta do what you gotta do. And immediately after that, she went and called my mom. Yeah, guess who I didn't tell? So the moment I got home, my mom is on the phone with my dad, giving him every piece of her mind. And she handed me the phone. My dad's right there. He's like, yeah, don't worry about coming down here. Everything's fine. I got it. Don't worry about it. And she took the phone back. She's like, no, he is coming because he's going to be there for his sisters because this is important. But he is coming back. And we were both like, yes, ma'am. Where did we stay? So I got to go. But I was coming back. And 3 things happened on this trip. Number 1, a taxi driver asked me what tribe I was. And I was like, Cherokee, but on my white side. I didn't know that Mexicans were native yet. Number 2, something happened that I think, happens to all of us at some point. And it's that I began to see my parents as human. Instead of these infallible creatures, I could see them as other human beings. Because I had never seen my mom get so upset. And it wasn't that she was mad, it's that she was heartbroken. She felt betrayed. How could I do that? How could my dad do that? And I had never seen my dad cry, weep, bawl. Because the third thing that happened is that my sisters wrote a letter to the judge to say that they wanted to stay living with their mom. And it broke all our hearts. And what we wouldn't know for years is the reason they wrote that letter is because their mom threatened to kill herself in front of them if they didn't write it. Now don't worry, my dad eventually did get custody of the girls. Of course, it was after their mom got arrested again. This time for drunkenly putting her hands on my sister Danny. But at this point in time, they were just shattered. My little brother most of all. He began to ask the hard-hitting questions that made me hurt, that made me feel guilty. Because he was asking, why can't Big Brother stay? Can't Big Brother stay? Why does Big Brother have to go? But my dad said something that I didn't expect. Well, son, because he loves his mom very much. You love your mom, right? Well, he is his mom's only baby. So he has to take care of her, You got to take care of your mom, right? His mom sacrificed everything for him. She sacrificed everything for me. And in that moment, it was like my whole childhood started to come back in pieces. I mean, after I was born, my mom worked 3 jobs to take care of us. And we lived with her mom and her dad until she saved up enough money to get us our own apartment. And she worked her way up from being a waitress to a restaurant manager until she jumped over into catering management, all to put me through private Catholic school, to send me to theater camp so that I could pursue my theatrical endeavors, to help me get into college. I mean, when she was 22, she settled down with the man who would be my stepdad. And, I mean, they were together from the time that I was 4 until I was 18. And That means she was with the same man from the time that she was 22 until she was 36. And I sure as fuck can't say I did that. When I was 18, I was graduating high school and going to college. When she was 18, she was having me and working 3 jobs to take care of me. When I was 22, I was graduating college and going off to work in California. When she was 22, she was settling down to give me a stable, consistent home life. When I was 36, well, when we were both 36, we both separated from our first spouses. But, 1 out of 3 ain't bad. But my first stepdad was actually pretty cool. I didn't think so at 4 years old, because he was 16 years older than my mom and he had gray hair. So when I was a little kid, I was like, why do you like this old man? He's got gray hair, he's old. But Max was cool. I mean, he was a musician, he was a writer, he was a bohemian with style, because he was also a salesman. He sold men's shoes at the most expensive clothing store in Dallas, Texas, Neiman Marcus. And he was actually the first person to encourage me to write. In 5th grade, we wrote a poem together that ended up in the paper. As I got older, he also encouraged me to keep up with my playwriting. And the last conversation we had together was him asking me to write a play with him. Max passed away in 2012. He had a stroke. My mom called me to tell me, but I was on tour, going across the country. She was with him those final days in the hospital, but I couldn't be there for his funeral. All I could think about at the time was this song that he wrote about my mom's family. It's to an old tune. He just changed the words a little bit, but it always cracked me up. It was home, home of the strange, where life around novellas is arranged, where seldom is heard an encouraging word, and the thinking is cloudy all day. It was true, too. Novellas were the Mexican soap operas my grandma and my great-grandma would always watch. He also had this funny little ditty he would say all the time. I don't know where it came from, I don't know what it's for, but he would just say, we're from France, and when we dance, we always do ballette. He was a funny guy. And he was a hard worker. I mean, my real dad was a hard worker, too. I mean, I told you, he moved to Dallas to work, and he was working at the Dr. Pepper Bottling Company, and he worked for TCBY Yogurt. He ended up managing for them, but then he moved on to be a prison guard for the Dallas County Sheriff's Department. And that's where he started to bulk up, which really helped him with his next job, because his next job, he was a stripper. Shit. I said what I said. They call him Mustang, because he can ride all night long. And we're never going to talk about it again. After that, he got into sales. He worked for Dell Computers during their boom, and then he moved over to cell phone towers during their boom, and then he sold manufactured homes, and now he just sells adult toys. Oh, get your heads out of the gutter. I'm talking about RVs and boats. But even though he worked all these jobs and made all this money, my mom will always point out that he never paid child support. And she could have taken him to court over it too, but she never did. I'll tell you what she did do, though. She never forgot about the time he tried to get me to move in with him during high school. So when it came time to graduate high school, we were given a limited amount of tickets, because our graduation was in the Meyerson Symphony Center. It had limited seating. So every family got 10 tickets. And she agreed to give him none. She was very clear with him and with me as to why. Because she wanted me surrounded by the village that helped her raise me. My grandparents, my great-grandparents, my uncles, my godparents, her best friends. And this is also when she revealed to me that my grandpa, Joe Villarreal, had been more of a dad to me than I ever realized. And my grandpa, Joe Villarreal, was a quiet and reserved man. Not the type to say I love you, but he would always prove how much he loved his children and his grandchildren through his actions. It was my grandpa, Joe Villarreal, who turned out he was the one that paid for my private school growing up. When me and my mom had a car accident, he was the one that bought us a new car. Every time I was sick, I would go to stay with my grandpa, Joe Villarreal, and his wife, Mama Dolores. And then I lived with them for months when my mom went to go open a restaurant in Austin, Texas, and I had to finish the 2nd grade. My grandpa, Joe Villarreal, he worked for the city of Dallas for 50 years. And I never even knew what he did until his retirement party. He worked in housing permits. And my grandma complained a lot when I was growing up, talking about the stories of when they were together, how he never wanted to be more. He could have been the city manager. He could have been this. He could have been that. But I learned he stayed in that position to help his community, to help other Chicanos, because he was bilingual. So he could help other people get their housing permits, to build their house, rebuild their house, move their house across the city. And I learned all this because they came out of the woodwork to his retirement party to tell the story of how he was the hero who helped them have a livelihood to raise their families. It was like George Bailey in It's a Wonderful Life. And I had never even seen that movie until a week after he passed away. Because my grandpa, Joe Villarreal, passed away the week before Christmas. And I went to his funeral in Dallas, and I didn't know how to process it. So when I got home to Asheville, I put on It's a Wonderful Life, because everyone said it was his favorite Christmas movie. And when it got to that scene at the end where everybody comes to help George out because he helped them, he was the one, he affected all of their lives, it was like, that's my grandpa's retirement party. And I finally understood. And I finally cried. Because it is my grandpa, Joe Villarreal, whose name I took when I wanted you to know who raised me. My mom gave me my dad's family name, so I had a connection to family. But when I needed a stage name, I took the name of the man who was there. I took the name, and even though it started as a stage name, I kept it. So all of you know that it's that family and everyone connected to that name, that village, who made me who I am. Because the name I choose is Alex McDonald Villarreal. And I don't spell it out for you so that you know that I'm Mexican. Because as my grandma always said, Mexico never did anything for us. We're Texan. My name is Alex McDonald Villarreal, and no, I don't own a farm, but Pawpaw did. My name is Alex McDonald Villarreal, and no, I don't speak Spanish, but I understand it poquito. My name is Alex McDonald Villarreal, and since I started adding Villarreal to the end of my last name, I've taken the time to study Chicano history, to read Chicano playwrights. I learned only 20% of Mexicans have Spanish blood. The other 80% are native to the land that they live on. Because ancient Mexico stretched from the Pacific Northwest across to Utah, down through Texas, through Mexico, into Central America, and it had Native American tribes like the Comanche, the Apache, the Inca, the Mexica. They were the people of the sun. But because some Harvard professor couldn't differentiate the the ancient Mexica from modern-day Mexicans, he gave them a new name. Aztecs, off of the land, Aztlan. And I realized everyone would see that map and then realize that the United States, during Manifest Destiny, kept moving westward. And there's this idea that it's like, oh, then all the Mexicans went down into Mexico. No. No. They're still here. They never left. I'm living proof. Because I'm over 5 generations deep on American soil, on both sides of my family, having been here since before the formation of this country. I learned recently that the United States Supreme Court decided that based on my skin tone, or if I have an accent or the ability to speak Spanish, I am liable to be picked up by ICE and deported at any time, regardless if I'm a citizen. And to me, that spits in my mom's face. Because she went out of her way to tell me my family name was a connection to that family, not a security blanket. And now I have the United States Supreme Court telling me I should be thankful I have this name because it protects me. Makes it harder to catch. And I didn't even know this about my name until recently. Because what happened recently? Grandma. Yeah, is she okay? So how long are they going to keep? Okay, well, I'm going to be there as soon as I can. I just don't know when that's going to be. One of the highways got mudslidded out, and I don't have power, I don't have water, and the airport's shut down, but as soon as I can, I will be there. Okay, just tell her that I love her. I love you too. Yes, I know you pray for me. Okay. All right, bye-bye. I didn't know that about my name until recently because I finally got to see my mom again and I asked her. The reason why I couldn't see her is because a 1 in 1,000 year flood hit our area. Hurricane Helene. And the last person I talked to on the phone was my mom. When I told her I was fine, we were set up for the weekend. And then the phones went out. The water was out. Electricity was out. But where she was, they were watching on the news the gravity of what was happening around us that some of us had no idea. And I have it much better off than so many people. But for 2 days, no one knew if I was dead or alive. People were reaching out to each other, trying to find out. After 2 days, I got a text message in the middle of the night from my ex-girlfriend from high school, telling me to go to the Lowe's down the street from my house so I could get water and a hot spot. The next day at 9 a.m. And that's what I did. First thing I did was call my mom. And I told her I was okay. And she was relieved, and we loaded up on water, and as I was sitting there after that phone call, my phone blew up, and I found out about all of those people who were trying to ask my mom if she knew I was alive. I felt bad. And then I went with my fiance to get in the car to sit in a 4-hour line waiting for gas. And while I was sitting there, I got a phone call from my uncle.
Hey, you need to call your grandmother. Your mom was taken to the hospital. They think she had a heart attack.
And I couldn't move. I was stuck. I couldn't get there. I didn't even know what was happening, and I felt responsible. I felt guilty because maybe it was the stress of not knowing what had happened to me and then the relief of finding out I was okay that caused it. But when I finally got a hold of my grandma, I found out that the root cause was a new medication. It caused a cardiac event. And they were able to change her medication, and after a week, her heart was better. But the issue was that when she had her cardiac event, she fell. And she hit her head, and she had a traumatic brain injury. She had a brain bleed, and they had to keep her to watch her to make sure she didn't have a stroke or a brain aneurysm. And I couldn't get there, but I kept up with her every day until I could. And when I finally did, it happened to coincide with her birthday. And we met up in Dallas, Texas, and we were there to celebrate 3 things. Number 1, being alive. Number 2, my engagement to my new fiance, Lauren. And number 3, my mom's birthday. But what the fuck do you get someone who just had a brain injury? A helmet? But I was working on this play. And I thought, what if she doesn't get a chance to see it? So I brought the script. And at brunch, I shared it with my grandma and my mom and my fiance. And we sat there and read over it. My grandma would be like, that's not exactly how it happened. And then my mom would say, that's exactly how it happened. And then my mom was showing Lauren the story about the Raggedy Ann. And she was laughing, and then she realized something, and she goes, have I ever told you this story? Do you remember Raggedy Ann? Grandpa comes in to find my mom in the bathroom, scrubbing Raggedy Ann's face in the toilet. I just wanted her to look like me. Well, Grandpa never forgot that. So, as my mom got a little bit older, she wanted a little bit older girl toys. What toy did every girl want at some point? Barbie. Please, Dad, can I have a Barbie? No. Please, Dad, please, Dad? No. Dad, why not? All my other friends have Barbies. Why can't I have a Barbie? Because there isn't a Barbie that looks like you. And my grandpa was true to his word until the day he died. My mom never owned one Barbie doll. Until the day after she told me that story. Because for my mom's 56th birthday, I bought her a Barbie doll. And I'll be damned if it didn't look like her. That's great. And this is why representation matters. This is why our history matters. And this is why I am proud to be Alex McDonald Villarreal. Yeah.